Alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ala man istanna bi sunnatihi ila yawm ad-din. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Probably the message today is more directed at those who are not here than those who are here. But for those who are here, perhaps it's a good reminder for all of us and perhaps something that can be beneficial, that can be passed on. Just some food for thought. What would we say? What would we think of someone who had a very beautiful automobile? They took a lot of time shining it up, waxing it, and it really had a great appearance outside. I mean, very attractive. And then we found out that the mechanics or the engine inside was totally ruined, rusted out. The frame and the chassis were no good. So what we were seeing on the outside is one thing, but the inside was worthless, made the car worth nothing. None of us would buy that car as a functioning vehicle. We would say it looked pretty, but that's it. None of us would buy it or purchase it as a functioning vehicle. The same thing is if someone has dirty clothes, someone has an outfit, if they ironed it up, ironed it with an iron, made it look straight, put it on, however, and it still reeked, it still was really dirty. It's just you couldn't see it, but you see and you perhaps smell it, then we know that that thing really isn't clean, no matter how it may look to us. So think about this in relation to ourselves and our souls. There's some of us, perhaps we may have the trappings or the outer appearance of Islam. But what about our inside? And definitely we're approaching a great month, Ramadan, which is an opportunity for us to work on that engine or to really clean up those dirty clothes. Or in a sense, this, of course, we're a metaphor for our souls and our hearts, to get it together. And if you also think about this analogy a little bit more, think about that engine in the process of cleaning. That's what we just did, the salah. And how many people neglect the salah? They neglect it. And yet they show up in Ramadan to fast, or they'll stand with the people only to disappear almost immediately thereafter. This is something we need to avoid. Of course, we want to avoid this because it shows that we really haven't understood the heart of the salah, the soul of the salah, really what the purpose is of it. The purpose of the salah is similar, as it mentions the first purpose of siyam. But one has priority over the other. That's clear. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned. He said the first thing that the slave will be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. Right after the shahadatain, the next pillar of Islam is salah. The Prophet ﷺ went on to say that if that salah, if that prayer is sound, and everything will be sound underneath it. So it should also be understood that if it's not sound, and if it's not together, then anything else that comes after that is not counted. It's empty. So we need to really learn how to concentrate and think and really reflect. So the salah starts to have the effect that it should have. Tanha al-fahsha'i wal munkar. This is what is mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If someone makes the salah, it prevents one from fahsha and munkar. Fawahish, fahsha, sinfulness, lewdness, wrongdoing of all types. Munkar, things that are detestable, doing things that are bad character, things that sully the soul, that dirty it. The salah is supposed to prevent that. And the salah is supposed to affect the heart, which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا صَلُحَتْ, right? If the heart is sound, if it's clean, then the whole body is clean. So we can't just worry about our outer appearance and not worry about what's inside, or deal with the outer appearance and not deal with what's inside. And some of us really have to face and deal with this. Every one of us, not some of us, all of us, every one of us have to face this issue or have to give it seriousness, give it its due, its weight. And we have a lot of things that distract us from concentrating on this heart and soul. So many things. So much so that even when we're standing in the salah itself, it's hard to concentrate on the salah. And don't think that's unusual. The Prophet ﷺ also said in an authentic hadith, he said that a man stands for the salah, or a person stands for the salah, because this goes for women as well, and they will get half the prayer. They'll get half of it. And then he went down and until he got to a tenth. And he stopped. So the first question is, why would the Prophet ﷺ start even with half? He didn't say get the whole salah. And some scholars have mentioned, well, and Allah knows best, that the reason for this is because having a perfect salah is difficult. Having a salah that's complete, meaning accepted by Allah, that the person does everything, is difficult. And then when you think about this, you mean, what do you mean is difficult? Is it standing in the right position? Is it putting the hands in the right place? Is it the recitation of Al-Fatiha or any other surah after? Is that part that's hard? Isn't it possible, is it possible that a person can stand and their prayer looks perfect, sounds perfect, and it not be accepted? Think about that, reflect. Could it be that someone's prayer isn't so perfect? They make mistakes, but it could be accepted. It's connected to what's in deep inside, what's in the heart. The niyyah, number one, the intention. The one who's making the perfect prayer may be standing for who? For people who are watching around them. They may be standing for the prayer so that people say that they have a beautiful prayer. And we have all heard the anecdotal story of the man who stood in the prayer, and the brothers are sitting and they're watching him, and he's making a perfect ruku', and it was just so peaceful and wonderful. And they hears them, they're commenting on his prayer while he's making the prayer, and he stops and he turns and he says, yeah, and I'm fasting too. So whose prayer was he making it for? Is his prayer accepted? You see, so this is something we need to really take into account and take seriously. And we have to strive. It takes jihad and nafs, the real jihad and nafs, to fight our souls, because there's so many things that take us away from the salah. So many things. Is a man who stands or a woman who stands in the prayer and they hear the Quran and they understand the message of the Quran like the one who stands in the prayer and doesn't understand it? La yastawiyan. They're not same. They're not equal. So that brings us back to the month that's coming for us, the month of Quran, the month of patience, the month of rahmah, the month of forgiveness. That if we were or have been neglectful of our prayer of salah, this is the time to get it together. Because what's supposed to happen is when you fast and when we fast and we stop stuffing ourselves and our concentration on snacking and keeping our bellies full, when that is, we remove that, it allows your soul to emerge a little bit. Because now, you're not preoccupied in stuffing the belly or preoccupied with food. It allows us to empathize with those who don't have it, who can't get it. It restricts the veins. And then after doing that for so many days, what it should do, it should really heighten our awareness. Allow us to concentrate on the core key act of ibadah, which is the salah. And when we come to Taraweeh, or we come to pray in the Jama'ah, then while, yes, we're praying with our brothers and our sisters, we're not making that prayer for show. We're not making that prayer just so it could be said, we made it out. But we're praying in order to get that reward from Allah, to really concentrate and work on ourselves, to really reflect so that it has some impact on our souls. And then that impact on our souls, if it's real, it will show its impact on our bodies. That's the way we behave, the way we speak, the way we deal in the world. It all will connect. Because frankly, what's happening is we're disconnected, many of us. We're disconnected. We look like Muslims, we talk like Muslims sometimes. Sometimes we don't, actually. Sometimes it's difficult for some Muslims to even say Alhamdulillah. And I know I'm not talking to people here when it comes to that, but there are many people, honestly, Muslims who are shy to say Alhamdulillah, who are shy to give the salams, who are shy, period, to even let it be known they're Muslims. There's a disconnect. But yet when Ramadan comes, they will be right here to break fast at iftar. And they will decorate their houses. And they will do those outer trappings. But like that car, like that garment, really what's going on inside is what needs to be cleaned. That's what needs to be charged and fixed. That's what needs the repair and the care and the attention. So even if you have that vehicle that's running, if it's reliable, but its outer has been a little beat down because it's been put to use, it's better than the one that is shiny and pretty outside and doesn't run. It's actually easier to replace a body and fix that than it is the inner workings of a car. And you mechanics know what I'm talking about. So this is what we have to do. We have to approach Ramadan with this intention that if we've fallen short, and we know we have, if we've slacked off, and we know we have, if we're not as connected to the book of Allah as we should have been, it's time, prime time to get that connection. And for those who've been connected, there's some people, it's not anything new for them to recite a juz a day or two. They're going to increase. We should strive towards that. We should strive to that. How many of us is the Quran that close to us? The Quran is so close to us that when we hear any ayat, we've read it, we've heard it. But how much of about understanding then. There's always something we can work on. Because recitation of the Quran without understanding its meaning, without practicing what it says, then this is not ideal. This is not what we should be striving for. The book of Allah is hudan lil muttaqeen, guidance. So we mention this just as a reminder to ourselves, believe me, or a reminder to myself that the heart of this deen is the salah, and the heart of the salah is trying to attain this consciousness, this khushu', this awareness, this presence inside of it. And then having presence and really understanding it is something that will affect our souls and our hearts. Maybe it will help guide our thinking. And I don't mean to be political, but for example, a Muslim's character is congruent, it's consistent. We can't demand morality amongst one another and expect morality or stand for it for ourselves and then vote for immorality. It's inconsistent. We can't talk about justice and standing for justice and realizing Allah demands justice and vote for injustice. That's my political statement. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and to guide us, to make us sincere, to give us the strength to work and strive against our souls and its evil inclinations. We ask Allah to allow us to reach Ramadan. Oh Allah, balaghna Ramadan. Allahumma balaghna Ramadan. Allahumma balaghna Ramadan. We ask you, Allah, to accept it from us and let us perform it in a way that is pleasing to you and accepted by you. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي لكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك.